Welcome back. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, inside of the Cafe Coupal Studios with locations all throughout Syracuse, New York, including their newest location, 208 North Townsend Street in the Holly Green Cafe. Go and find them today. I'll be heading over there to get some of my favorites. I hope that you will be as well. We're inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, and we got to bring you a fantastic intro here to talk about this year and everything we've tried to do to help your fantasy football season be a little bit easier and a little bit more fun. So with that being said, we're inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, and we are taking a look at the NFC West, giving you our analysis, our predictions, and our fantasy football value, that trio all together for every team inside of this division. And you can go back to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and see all of our division and analysis, every single one of the divisions in the NFL, all 32 teams. You can check it out on YouTube as well as on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT. So, with that being said, I hand the ball off to my partner, Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com. The first team that we have on the docket, those are your Arizona Cardinals. So, Mike, take it away.
Hey, I like Arizona. I like them a lot. I think they're the next Kansas City. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but, you know, you look, they got a lot of similarities, and that starts with the quarterback. That all starts with Kyler Murray. You saw in the drafts, I took Kyler Murray, and I took a lot of NFC West players. There's a lot of good players in the NFC West. The challenge is they got some pretty tough schedules, and they got a couple tough road trips as well, each of these teams. So it's going to be a challenge, but let me get right to it here. You know, Kyler Murray is an athlete. Kyler Murray makes things happen. He's a guy that if he wanted, he could play multiple positions of just about any position, offense or defense. There's few guys out there like that, and when they pop on film and show up, it's something else. To just show you want to watch this guy. You want to see what he's going to do next. You don't know what he's going to do next. He makes stuff happen. He improvises. He has guys like Larry Fitzgerald who are able to help him out. I mean, who wouldn't want a Larry Fitzgerald, a veteran of the league? Who wouldn't want to have new upcoming guys on the roster as well? I'm talking about who? Uprising starter. Yes, DeAndre Hopkins. He's a wily veteran as well. So let me get this straight. You have Fitzgerald on one side. Now, I know he's a little long in the tooth, may have lost a step or two, but he's still a veteran player. He still knows how to get open. He still knows how to get some separation. Larry Fitzgerald on one side, DeAndre Hopkins on the other side. Then you can fill in the gap there with Christian Kirk. Andy Isabella is going to be more, involved in the offense this year. Kenyon Drake exploded last year, popped out of nowhere. That was the best thing, getting him out of Miami, and you see what he's about. Chase Edmonds right behind him is no slouch either. And I like the things they're doing on defense. Some of the guys on defense are just outrageous. Patrick Peterson, obviously one of the best cover corners. You can chop the field in half because nothing's happening on his side of the field. Buda Baker, tackling machine. Jordan Hicks, tackling machine. Devondre Campbell. What do? You bring in Isaiah Simmons. The guy can play anywhere on the field. They're going to line him up everywhere on the field as well. I like what Arizona's got going on. I think they're going to be an improved team. But looking at their schedule here, they do have some challenges. One of the challenges is in week 4 and 5, they got 2 tough road trips to the East Coast, both 1 o'clock games. I'm questioning, are they just going to stay on the East Coast? Because that's 10 a.m. their time. Those left coast, East Coast games are not easy, especially at the 1 o'clock kickoff, especially when you have them back-to-back. Look, the Sharps, the guys who set the lines in Vegas say they're going to go they're going to win 7.5 games. They have the 8th toughest schedule. So out of 32 teams, only 7 have tougher schedules than they do. I got them going 8-8. I think that road trip is going to trip them up a little bit. I think it's going to be tricky, those 1 o'clock games back-to-back. I think they're capable of beating just about anybody in the league, but they got a pretty tough schedule, and they got, they're still young, they're still on the up, but I gotta like the veteran players they have to combine with these rookies. I think Arizona's the Kansas City of the future. This year, I got them going 8-8.
And Mike, with the 8-8 record for the Cardinals this season, and I think that's an arguable case there. I think that you have something there, and I think you're onto something. taking a look at their record being there. Larry Fitzgerald that you're seeing on the screen right now, a fantastic player on the team. Kyler Murray, we know what he can do. You're seeing that right now against Cincinnati. I think they'll be having some fun. Again, I think teams will be having fun against Cincinnati this season anyways. By the way, if you look at the video, Cincinnati was already social distancing before Corona. A lot of open spaces in the stadium. So maybe, Mike, they don't have to change anything about Cincinnati allowing the fans in because they were already spaced out. But the reality of it all, as we look at all this, is, seeing Kyler Murray and what he's been able to do, zipping that ball out. I think he's one of the best young guns in the NFL. I think fantasy-wise, he's got a lot of value. He's up high on Mike's cheat sheet. He is in the top 4. We've spoken very highly of him here on the show. So I think there's a lot to be said about, Arizona. And you give him Christian Kirk, who I think is an up-and-comer. You have Larry Fitzgerald, who's timeless, and who I would love and relish the opportunity to be with him if I was on a team at any position, let alone the wide receiver position. I think would be fantastic to be out there and learn from him. You got DeAndre Hopkins on the other side. He's got some time in. So I think that this is a great opportunity for the Arizona Cardinals this season, because I think there's a lot of good that they can do, and I think there's a lot of success that can be had. I think the fantasy value kind of, in some cases can go through the roof. I think Kyler Murray, I don't know if he has a ceiling. I don't know if, DeAndre Hopkins, if things get going right and this offensive line can protect, if he has a ceiling. And then to go beyond that, Kenyon Drake's one of those guys that came from Miami, yet another former Miami Dolphin that leaves the Dolphins and gets better. We've seen this happen with the Dolphins throughout these last few years. Somebody leaves and they automatically improve. Kenyon Drake is one of those guys. Not only did he improve, but he ousted David Johnson, and David Johnson ends up getting traded. Arizona, in my opinion, an extremely lopsided trade, and for different positions, a running back for a wide receiver. They get arguably the best receiver in the country at the time, and they already have Kenyon Drake, so they lose David Johnson. Chase Edmonds is no slouch, and he's somebody that could help you out too. I'm not sold on him yet, but I do think there's some fantasy value, and I see him get drafted in a lot of the drafts that I've had. So I think Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds are a good 1-2 punch. DeAndre, Larry Fitzgerald, and Christian Kirk are all worth taking a chance on and drafting. I would say absolutely. And I like Kyler Murray. I mean, there are some question marks here because these guys have to learn how to play together. Cliff Kingsbury is only a head coach in the NFL for his second season. This is Kyler Murray's second season. DeAndre's new. But if they can get it rocking and rolling, then they can get this coming through. There's a lot of positives that could come here. Isaiah Simmons on the other side of the ball for them. Love that pickup. Chandler Jones from Syracuse is one of their linebackers. And on the offensive side, Justin Pugh is their left guard from Syracuse. So you're looking at 2 high draft picks, both from Syracuse, both from my hometown, both guys that I think are, they've obviously proven that they can make it in the NFL, and I love seeing them both there. Arizona, to me, when I look at the schedule, Mike has left them with some positives. I will say, looking at their schedule, playing San Francisco twice, I think that they can arguably split. I would lean on the side that maybe they could beat Arizona when they see them later on in the season. And then, because that game will be at home in Arizona, I think, that. I think the Washington game, I think Detroit, I think arguably Carolina. We're looking at those pieces. They're playing the Jets, and I can honestly say that I can argue them to 8-8 as well, because I think that they can defeat the Rams. I think there's something to be said about that. But they have a favorable schedule, playing the Jets, playing the Giants, playing the Panthers, playing Detroit, playing Washington this season, and Miami. That's very favorable. And I think Philadelphia, they're playing them late in the season, and Philly's kind of, that's up in the air with me. I originally thought that they were going to win the division, and now I'm leaning more on the side of Dallas. So the reality of it all is I think that we can both argue the Cardinals to 8-8, and I think that, the Cardinals are going to have a lot of fantasy value for you this season and a lot of good stuff. And I hope that Chase Edmonds proves me wrong and that there's some good there, because I auto-drafted him by accident in one of my leagues, and I'm hoping that ends up working out for me. We got a question here coming from Jordan. Jordan said, what's your take on this Thursday's game? Last I checked, the line moved to 9. So, Mike, we got a question here that I want to address because it was asked while we were talking about Arizona. What is your take on the line for this game? The intro game, Houston at Kansas City, a replay of a playoff game. where Houston had Kansas City on the ropes, I believe, up by 21. Kansas City came back and ended up winning the Super Bowl eventually. What are your thoughts on Houston at Kansas City and the line being 9? Just what your take is on that.
Yeah, it's a lot of points. That's definitely a lot of points. But if any team can do that, we've seen it. It's Kansas City. So, I would be less inclined to give 9 points. I like the game closer at 7. But how can you bet against the returning Super Bowl champions at home in the opening? And all they did was get better with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I just don't see how they got worse from winning the Super Bowl. So I think Houston's got some moving parts that they need to settle in. They got David Johnson. They got Brandon Cooks. These guys need to settle into this system. I think you're going to see some heroes that we've heard from in the past in this game. Maybe a Will Fuller, because he'll be healthy. It's game 1. Maybe a Kiki Kuti. Who knows? Travis Kelce. I mean, there's going to be some stars in this game, but there's going to be some unsung heroes on the other side as well. So I like the game. I guess if somebody held a gun to my head, I would take Kansas City, but 9 points is a lot of points.
Yeah, I think 9 points is a lot here, too. I think that they're leaning on the side of the fact that DeAndre Hopkins isn't there and, that Houston's going to be somewhat maybe a little bit in shambles, but there's still a lot of talent in your quarterback's Deshaun Watson, and he just locked up what is the second highest paid behind only Pat Mahomes, and they'll be playing each other. So here's an interesting fun fact. The 2 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL will have the first game of the season. Mike, what do you think about that?
I think they're worthy of being the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. I think they're great. Or are we going to find out that Deshaun Watson's not as good as he was because of DeAndre Hopkins, who is arguably one of the top receivers in the league every year? So, I have a feeling that it is Deshaun Watson. The guy's been a winner. The guy's won a state championship in high school. The guy's won a college football championship. And look, here he is in the NFL, leading the NFL in what he does. So I think it's going to be a great matchup. I look forward to kicking off the season with this game. It's going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mike says, that he thinks the line should be a little bit slimmer than 9, and I would agree with that. I would have to agree with that. I mean, I can't. I know Kansas City is good, but I can't. I mean, when Deshaun Watson, I covered him in college when he was at Clemson, and obviously with everything that he's done with Houston, been covering him in the entire NFL. So I can't see this game being 9. I think that that's kind of a little bit disrespectful to Houston. So, I know that Mike talks all the time about, how Vegas builds those big buildings, not on you winning, but on them winning. And so, it's hard to go against when you think that they know. But they also say that the Cowboys are going to go to the Super Bowl, great odds every year. And this year I would actually lean on the side that the Cowboys could make it to the Super Bowl, but not in these past seasons of recent history. But I think 9 is a little bit much, and I don't think it adequately represents the Houston Texans and their ability to bring a lot of value to this game. So I would disagree with that line a little bit, Jordan. I thank you for the question. Anybody else that has a question, make sure you send them in. Let us know on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. You can always ask a question, and you can ask the questions on facebook.com/livenowdt as well. Mike, we're going on to our next team here, the Los Angeles Rams, who just signed, and this is why I love having a live show, just made sure that they locked up when they brought him over from the Jaguars. He was on an expiring contract. Now Jalen Ramsey is, I believe, the highest paid cornerback in the history of the NFL. So what are your thoughts on that, and what are your thoughts on the Rams?
Yeah, I think it's in the water. If you've noticed, a lot of teams offering these high contracts to some guys that they're going to lock up. They're doing it this year. They're doing it early, and they don't even know what the real cap number is going to be next year. It's going to be reduced, but they're thinking that these big contracts like this are going to be grandfathered in. So I think they're trying to get these guys that they need to. You would think, the virus and all this stuff's going on. You'd want to parse down. You'd want to clean out the cupboard. You'd want to make sure you got the bare minimum. No, that's not what you do. When everybody else when everybody else digs, you zag. When everybody else thinks you should hold back, you put your pedal to the metal, you put the thing on the floor, and you go. And that's what these guys are doing in the NFL. And Jalen Ramsey's arguably the best cover corner in the league. He can chop the field in half for you. You don't have to worry about the coverage. You know, this guy is like Fred Smoot used to say back in the day. 2/3 of the planet's covered by water. The other third's covered by Fred Smoot. That's Jalen Ramsey right now. I don't like him as an individual person. That's one I've seen in his personality. But those guys live like that. Those guys are prima donnas. That's what they do. That's DBs and wide receivers. So I get it. But he does deserve to be the highest paid defensive back in the league. Right now he is. Until everybody gets a load of C.J. Henderson of the Jaguars out of Florida. Look, I think that the Rams have a pretty tough schedule as well. Their schedule strength is 10th in the league, so only 9 teams have a tougher schedule than them. You know, Vegas has them at 8-5. I'm looking. There's something in the scheduling office in the NFL because 3 of the 4 teams in the West for the NFC have these tough road games to the East Coast back-to-back with 1 o'clock games. And I'm talking about week 2, week 3. They got to play Dallas at home. Then they got to go to Philadelphia for a 1 o'clock and Buffalo for a 1 o'clock. I venture to say they're going to stay out east rather than make that trip back twice. Travel is ultra, difficult right now. I mean, they do it in the NFL. They have to. But, I think they're going to stay out east to try to make that easier. But still, it's like playing a 10 a.m. game when you play from West Coast to East Coast. It's tough. It's real tough to do that. People underestimate that. They don't take in jet lag and all this stuff, all this demand on the players' bodies. I'm looking at the schedule, and I see this league as tough. I see this league as cannibalizing each other. I see this league as making each other better by the caliber of play, but that's not going to show up in the record because they're going to beat each other up. I'm looking at this Rams team, and I think they're capable of winning just about any game, any time. But the schedule doesn't do them any favors. Vegas agrees. They got them going 8.5, 8.5 wins this year. I'm going to go slightly under at 8-8 again, just like Arizona again, with the theory that these teams are little degrees of separation between them, and anybody can beat anybody on any given day in the NFC West. I like the Rams this year. I think they can make the playoffs, but it's going to be tough at 8-8.
Yeah, the Rams to me, there's some question marks. And, Jared Goff to me still has to prove himself. He's a little bit above average to me at quarterback, but he's not a wow quarterback. I've not drafted him in any of my fantasy leagues, any of the ones that we did, not the Floridian one, not our leagues here in Central New York, not the league that Mike and I jumped into as well outside of that. So I've had none of these. And so it's kind of crazy to see this, but I have not. I shouldn't say it's crazy to see this. I think that people are not as high on Jared Goff. I'm definitely not as high on Jared Goff, and I do think he has talent, and I think he has a tremendous coach in Sean McVay. So I would like to see more. I kind of look at Matt Ryan and say, like, if Andy Dalton was the equator a couple of years ago, then Jared Goff is above that. And Matty Ryan's above that. But now if Matt Ryan's the equator, in my opinion, where's Jared Goff? And I don't know if I can say Jared Goff is better, but I would like to see if he has more upside to this. Cam Akers being their starting running back, coming from Florida State. I covered Cam there. He had his biggest days against Syracuse. He was a highlight tape. So there's a lot of good from what Cam Akers has done on in the college football realm. We'll see what he could do here. Darrell Henderson, I'm not going to give up on him yet. Memphis running back. I think that this could be a very talented 1-2 punch, but it's what Sean McVay is going to do with it and how he's going to utilize it. I think Cam Akers is one of those rookie running backs you should draft, and I have. Darrell Henderson's not getting drafted at all because people kind of lost faith, and they saw him last year, and he was a third-string guy, and maybe a guy that was supposed to return something in the special teams game, but there wasn't really much of anything to write home about. So people have left him off. He's somebody to watch in your free agency. And then Cooper Kupp, he's got to step it up. Robert Woods is there. Josh Reynolds has to step up this year. Van Jefferson, who Mike took late in our draft. Tristan Jackson, shout out to this man, undrafted free agent from Syracuse. So the NFC West likes their Syracuse players. Tristan is a guy to look at out there at wide receiver for the Rams because they spread the ball out and they like to utilize a lot of different guys, and nobody has become their consistent. If I had to put it anywhere, I would put it with Cooper Kupp, but he's also needed to stay healthy. So that's something to look to. Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett, either one of these guys, I think obviously you lean on the side of Higbee, but they could be interchangeable at times, so I would just kind of caution you for that. And then as far as defense goes, Aaron Donald, arguably the best defensive player in the country, not just defensive lineman, but best defensive player in the country. And then you have Jalen Ramsey, who Mike said it best, as a person, when it comes to Jalen Ramsey for me too, having been around him a lot, off the field, getting to see him in the locker room and whatnot. So I think it's difficult for me to say as far as a human being, because I called him one of the issues in the locker room, probably the biggest one for Jacksonville. But as far as talent goes, yeah, he's very talented. And to give you the information on the contract, he has signed the largest contract in the history of the NFL for a cornerback ever, for any defensive back. 5 years, $105 million contract. Ramsey is the first defensive back to sign a contract greater than $100 million. The highest contract for a defensive back in history before this was Darrelle Revis with the Jets. And Ramsey will be allegedly getting $71.2 million of the $105 million at signing, which is the largest guaranteed money for a defensive back ever in NFL history. So setting a lot of records here as the Rams are looking to lock him up. I hope that he doesn't become a problem for the Rams as he was for Jacksonville, but the talent is definitely there. Looking at the schedule for the Los Angeles Rams, I would have to tell you that, for them ultimately, I have Arizona at 8-8, and Mike talking about 8-8 for the Rams as well. When I break down the schedule and take a good hard look at it, I think the Rams are going to struggle in certain places. They're playing Dallas right out of the gate. They're playing that game at home, which is good. But then, you have you're playing at Buffalo, you're playing at San Francisco. I think they could split with San Fran. I think, Chicago and Miami, let's call those wins. Let's call Philadelphia. I'm going to call that a win, even though it's on the road. So Philadelphia a win, the Giants a win, at Washington a win, splitting with San Francisco, Chicago, Miami. So that's 6. And then you got to play Seattle, you got to play Tampa, you got to play Arizona twice, you got to play the Jets. You got to play New England. So I think it's safe for me to say the Rams to get, I think they're going to be somewhere between 8 and 9 wins, but I'm going to say that they're going to be at 8-8 as well. And I'll lean on that with Mike here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. With that being stated, Mike and I are going to take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, we'll have the other half of the NFC West as we continue our analysis with San Francisco and Seattle. That'll be coming up right after this fast break where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Once again, as always, we appreciate you being here and spending some time with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, if not longer. And we always go over here when it comes to the Fantasy Football Power Hour because Mike and I put a lot of work in, and you deserve to have it all. So we'll take a step aside for a fast break. We'll be back right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora.
It's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carbolite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carbolanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carbolite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as on Facebook Live on facebook.com/livenowdt. We are inside of our final analysis by division. Mike and I have done the AFC, all four divisions, and all of the NFC except for the NFC West, which is today's broadcast. You can go back and watch all of these episodes to get you ready for the 2020-2021 season with analysis of each of the teams in the division, as well as predictions for their finishes and fantasy football advice, all with each of the teams by division broken up in very simple and easy to watch packages on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, and of course on facebook.com/livenowdt in our videos, and of course you can see them at Wake Up Call DT on Facebook as well, as I'll be sharing them all once again. So with that being said, we're on the back half here, and before we get into the Niners, we do have a question. Who do I cut from my fantasy team, 12-team PPR for a kicker? B. Scott, B. Edwards, or McCole Hardman? Thanks for your insight, guys, from Greg. Mike is on it. He put Hardman unless you have a worse option, and not if you have points for return yards. B. Edwards is having a great preseason for what it is, and him being a rookie. Boston Scott will be the new Darren Sproles, so PPR points should be easy to come by. So Mike's saying that Boston Scott, yeah, that's a guy to kind of look to, I would say, and we know that Philadelphia likes to use multiple backs. So even though Philadelphia doesn't have him as their dominant, it is something to kind of circle here, and I think that it's important to take a look at that. So I do like Mike's thoughts. I will give my own. Greg, I'd love to see what other wide receivers you have, but I would say it's between Edwards and Hardman. Probably hold on to Scott if it's PPR. So I would definitely probably hold on to that. I like McCole Hardman. I think he's going to step up, but we know that Kansas City has a lot of weapons, so that could be something to look to. And definitely appreciate the question. Make sure you send your questions to us whenever you want to. You can always send them to us in our Winning Fantasy Football group on Facebook. Go to Winning Fantasy Football in your Facebook search bar and join the group. You can always send questions there. Mike and I will get alerted, and we can answer those questions for you. So make sure you tag us. You can also do it on social media in other areas, on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, Instagram at wakeupcall_DT, or you can send it to us during the live show like Greg just did, and Jordan has as well. You could send us your questions on facebook.com/livenowdt, either live, or if you watch the video after the fact and you put a question on there once the video is played, I'll see that question, get that alert, and Mike and I can address them as they come. So plenty of different ways for you to interact with us. Make sure that you don't waste it, and utilize our services, because we are here for you. With that being said, Mike, let's hop into the other side of the NFC West in the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. I hand it off to you, Mr. Sofka, for the San Francisco 49ers. What be your thoughts on the Niners?
Yeah, San Francisco has one of the tougher schedules out there in the league, but they're also one of the best teams. San Fran has the fourth toughest schedule in the league, so put that in perspective. 28 teams have easier schedules than San Fran, and San Fran's got some quality players, but again, they get the treatment on the schedule. In the early part of the schedule, they go East Coast twice for 1 o'clock games back to back. somebody in the scheduling department at the NFL is doing one of those little hand rubs together going, I got the NFC East, you know? Well, I'll tell you, San Fran can rise above this. They're a good team. I'm looking forward to that stable of running backs coming back. Raheem Mostert, he was thinking he was on the way out with Tevin Coleman coming back from injury, Jerick McKinnon coming back from injury, Jeffrey Wilson's able to do returns at spot duty and third down duty. No, they like Raheem Mostert. They locked him up. I'm concerned about the fantasy implications here with these three guys. To me, it's a three-headed monster. It's kind of like New England used to be, or New England still is. You don't know who the guy is going to be. And then next week, it'll be a different guy. One week, Raheem Mostert's going to score 4 touchdowns and run for 194 yards, and the next week, it's going to be Tevin Coleman, or it's going to be Jerick McKinnon, these forgotten guys. So pay attention to your waiver wire in fantasy. Watch the hot trend. They may go with the hot hand and stick with a hot hand. I like what San Fran's done, bringing in the rookie Brandon Ayuk. I think he's going to have an outstanding season. Hey, the wide receivers have been dinged up. Dante Pettis dinged up. Debo Samuel's dinged up. He had a foot problem. There was questions whether he was going to be able to play week 1. They're saying he's going to be a go, but still, I've injured my foot before. Anytime you have a lower extremity injury and you're an NFL player, those things seem to linger and come back to you, so watch out for that as well. I look for Brandon Ayuk to take advantage of the situation. He had a minor injury as well in camp, but I think he's going to step up, and he's going to be the guy that they're going to turn to. Him and Debo Samuel, even with that foot, they're about running the ball, though. They're running the ball opens up the game for these receivers. And like I said, they got a stable of running backs. Their defense is much improved. I like Eric Armstead. I like what they did by bringing in Javon Kinlaw. He's a beast. This guy can play anywhere on the line, but this guy's going to primarily be defensive tackle. I think this guy's going to be a one-man show. I think he's like a Jadeveon Clowney. You have to... he's not going to kill you every play, but he's going to kill you on those plays. He's going to kill you on the third downs, the third and longs. He's going to put you in a bad situation so you're in third and long. And what about his partner on the line, Nick Bosa? I mean, this is where his team shines. They got Richard Sherman. Yeah, he's a little long in the tooth, but he's still a quality DB. Jaquiski Tart, this guy finds a way to make tackles every year. They're going to cut him. They're going to trade him. They're not going to bring him back. Whatever. This guy does nothing but go out there and get tackles. Look, I like what they got offensively, defensively. I like what they have in a coach in Kyle Shanahan. I think they're great. I like their defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh. I think this is a great team. Well, Vegas seems to think they are too. Even with the fourth toughest schedule, Vegas has the line for San Fran and win total at 10.5. I think it's like we've talked about before, like you mentioned today. They don't build those big buildings in Vegas on handing out money. They take money. They always seem to be right on the point total. They also seem to be right on the wins here because as I analyze the schedule, and I want to be clear, when I look at these things, I go through the schedule first and see wins and losses. Then I look up Vegas, and it's reasonably close usually. I have them close here as well, 10-6 for San Fran. I think, you look at these other teams, 8-8, 8-8, 10-6. That's only a game or two separation. So, the NFC West is the pride of the NFC, although the NFC South is going to have something to say about it with Tom Brady in town as well. But I like San Fran. They're a class act as far as a team. They got quality on both sides of the ball and special teams. I got them going 10-6.
Yeah, I think this is going to be definitely an interesting season for San Francisco. Jimmy Garoppolo, I had said to Mike, let's see what he's like when he's healthy. Let's see what he's like when he's out there all the time, when he plays a full season. We saw that, and they went to the Super Bowl. So, Jimmy Garoppolo, to me, the funny thing about it is he is low on the totem pole from what I've seen with fantasy football. A lot of people letting him drop in leagues, but he is definitely worth being your backup. He's a very serviceable backup if you get him a Mahomes or you get a Lamar Jackson or you get a Kyler Murray or a Dak Prescott or something of that sort to put him right behind that, or Tom Brady, put him right behind that. He was behind Tom Brady before as well. So Raheem Mostert, this is a guy where, like him and Tevin Coleman, I still have to see more. I know that Mike is high on Raheem. I need to see a little bit more from Raheem. I have not been drafting him. I've been letting him go. Tevin Coleman, I like his talent, but he's always been the back end of a 1-2 punch, and that's what he is here. Jerick McKinnon, I told myself I'd never draft him because I never felt good about it in my gut, and I trust my gut. And I drafted him 1 year, the first year he left Minnesota to come to San Fran. And what happened to Jerick McKinnon? He tore his ACL. So my hope is that he stays healthy.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks.
Yeah, I take it. It's on me. But Matt Breida is not there now, so they don't have the 4-headed running back situation. They have a 3-headed running back situation right now because I think that they will all get time. But I need to see a little bit more from these guys. Deebo Samuel, somebody I've taken a chance on later on. Brandon Ayuk is somebody that they brought in. Trent Taylor. A lot of young guys that are here. Dante Pettis, again, another young team when it comes to when we look at the wide receiver core. They're stayed young. Tavon Austin's there, but he is injured. And they have a lot of injuries right now on their depth chart at wide receiver, which include Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. So kind of interesting here. Deebo is questionable for week 1, and so is Brandon. So they're guys that are on the depth chart right now that are healthy. Kendrick Bourne, Trent Taylor, and Dante Pettis are the only receivers that are marked down as healthy right now on the depth chart with 6 guys, including Deebo and Brandon, with injuries and could be questionable for week 1. So that's something to circle and think about. I think we saw what was really cool with Deebo is when they played the Chiefs in the first half, it was working. I don't know why I never understand when something works and a team goes away from it. And the Deebo Samuel thing was working. That was something that I really, Kyle Shanahan, I commend him on this, is that he used Deebo the way that Kansas City uses Tyreek Hill, and Kansas City wasn't ready for it. Why they went away from it in the game, I don't know, because I think Deebo Samuel, if San Fran had won the game, Deebo could have been up for for player of the game, for MVP of the game. So I think that that's something to look to and something to obviously address is the fact that there is talent there, but how often are they going to use it? Brandon Ayuk, I think, can obviously have an immediate impact because of the fact of the injuries and a lot of young guys and not household names. But really it goes down to George Kittle. And Jordan Reed, at 152 years old, has left Washington. He left the Washington football team, and this former Gator is hoping that he can have himself a healthy time and be connected to one of the best in the game in George Kittle. Yes, sir, go ahead. What?
You're never going to believe this.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I have to say it. Jordan Reed is already on IR. He got placed on IR yesterday. He's done. It's apropos. This is what he does. He goes and gets hurt. He wins the Super Bowl, throws a touchdown pass as a non-quarterback in the Super Bowl, and he's hurt again. You can't rely on him. You can't.
It's crazy to see what's going on with Jordan Reed. But George Kittle is here, and George Kittle is obviously a guy to look to. I like their offensive line. They have Trent Williams, Laken Tomlinson, and whatnot. I know.
Hold on one more second.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got him confused with Trey Burton there for a second, but Jordan Reed does get hurt all the time. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're okay. I knew exactly what you meant, and if somebody tuned in and said and you heard and Jordan Reed is injured, I don't think anybody would have argued with you, Mike. So I think we get that, but I'm happy that he's there and he's on a team where he doesn't have to be the guy. Nick Bosa in the first league that Mike welcomed me into, where we have individual defensive players, IDPs. I drafted Nick Bosa. And so Nick Bosa, Javon Kinlaw is on the team. A lot of great guys here. Quan Alexander, obviously Richard Sherman, and whatnot. I think San Francisco is a defense worth taking. And obviously, I believe it's number one on some of these cheat sheets, including Mike's cheat sheet. They are number one. So, obviously the defense and special teams, I think Deebo Samuel is worth the nod. Raheem Mostert, I don't think is a bad guy to have, but he would be like, he'd be like my third or fourth running back that I would take, depending on how the draft was going. And Jimmy Garoppolo is worth the nod, even though he's going late, and George Kittle is going very early with Travis Kelce. And if I've learned anything this year, it's that there is a ton of talent at tight end. I mean, even when Mike and I were talking about it, I didn't realize how much there actually truly was. So to look at the record really quick here for San Fran, I think it's great that they get to basically stay on the East Coast. I would imagine they're not going home, and they'll be playing at the New York Jets and at the Giants, both of those games at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. So you got Arizona first, then you got these two, and then you have Philadelphia, Miami. San Fran could start off the season 5-0. I think they're going to at least split with the Rams, so let's call that 6-0. Then Jimmy's going to play his old team, New England, that doesn't have Tom Brady anymore. I could say that game's 7-0. And then, they have Seattle, which is kind of a toss-up here. And then I think they could beat Green Bay. They did it at home twice last year. I think they could do it again. So let's say they have 8 out of their first 9 are wins. And then you got to play Washington 10. So, yeah, I think I could say that San Francisco, I would put them at 11-5 this season. And Mike, that's what you did, right? 11-5?
I did 10-6.
10-6,
but that's
okay.
close. Again, there's not a lot of separation between these teams.
No, so I think having them there at a 10, I feel comfortable with 10-6, but I think they could go 11-5. So Mike and I are both thinking high on the San Francisco 49ers coming off of their Super Bowl berth and lost to Kansas City, but still getting there. Mike, our final team to talk about, I hand the ball off to you as we go to the Seattle Seahawks and the home of the 12th man.
Yeah, look, I like Seattle a lot. They're a good program. They got great coaching. I've been to that stadium. I had the pleasure of seeing a game there in Seattle. It was one of the places I always wanted to go to, and I had the opportunity through fantasy football, by the way. Budweiser sent me out there. That was a great thing. That was a great trip I had, and the people of the Seattle area, are great. I ran into some Gator people out there. I'm a Gator fan, so that was great as well. But I'm looking at Seattle's team, and they remind me a lot of San Francisco, except they don't have the strength, I think, at the defensive line position that San Fran does. But they got young receivers. Tyler Lockett is, coming into his prime here. DK Metcalf exploded on the scene. Philip Dorsett is a wily veteran who's never been that top guy, but he can make things happen. Freddie Swain, look out for him out of Florida. Both Freddie Swain and, I'm missing the other guy out of my head. What is wrong with my head this morning here? So Freddie Swain's going to be your return guy. He's going to be a guy that you can count on if you get return yardage. I'm looking at the defense, though. The defensive line doesn't scare me. Jaron Reed from UCF is a quality defensive tackle, but L.J. Collier is the defensive end. I don't think he's getting pressure on the quarterback. We talk about this every week. In order to win in the NFL, you have to have pressure on the opposing quarterback, and you have to protect your quarterback from the pressure. That's the magic formula. That's how you win games, period, end of story. Everything else will fall into place. Bobby Wagner, though, is a tackle machine. Shaquille Griffin, at the left corner, he's one of the better corners in the league. His brother just got waived by Seattle, but he cleared waivers and they put him on the practice squad. You may have heard of Shaquem Griffin, the guy at UCF with his brother, but Shaquem doesn't have one of his own. It's just his hard work and dedication that he's even in the league, but he's still on a practice squad, and we've seen guys from the practice squad get picked up elsewhere. Look at Alan Lazard. So his career is not over. They have Josh Gordon waiting in the wings as soon as he's cleared, and supposedly that's pending with the commissioner right now to be off the exempt list once again. This is a guy who's had continual struggles with drugs and other controlled substances. This is a guy who is an excellent player. He's arguably one of the best receivers in the league when his head is right and when his head is in the game and when he's not doing things he's not supposed to. So, I like Seattle a lot. They have the 13th toughest schedule, almost in the middle. I don't think Seattle has enough to get past the likes of a San Fran, though, and maybe even the Rams, and maybe even Arizona. Again, there's not a lot of separation in these teams. For some reason, Seattle wasn't granted the same great privilege as the other three teams with those back-to-back 1 o'clock East Coast games. They don't have those on their schedule. What they do have, though, is they have to play everybody in their division. You play them all twice. That's what makes these teams cannibalize each other. Again, a game or two here is the separation. If you look back, I had 8-8, 8-8, 10-6, and now I have Seattle at 9-7. They're all right there. They're all quality teams. You put these teams in some other divisions, they're going to win those divisions. So NFC West is where a lot of talent is. That's why I drafted a lot of their players. It's where a lot of good football is. There's some other good divisions, but the NFC West is definitely one of the better ones. I like Seattle right at the Vegas line again. 9.5. I got them going 9-7.
Yeah, and seeing this team, and I think you're right, Mike. I think the NFC West, which at one point a few years back was kind of a laughingstock. It was teams that were barely getting to 7-9 or 8-8, or who's going to win this division and how ugly is it going to look? And San Fran had a lot of problems, but I think ultimately, you bring in a coach like Sean McVay, a young gun. And he's doing what he's doing with the Rams. He's brought them to a look at this. Russell Wilson has gone to and won a Super Bowl. Sean McVay has led the Rams to a Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan has led the Niners to a Super Bowl. The berth at least for the Rams and for the Niners. So 3 out of 4 teams in this division have been to the Super Bowl in recent history, the Cardinals being the only team that haven't, and they had the number 1 pick in Kyler Murray, and now they have DeAndre Hopkins, who's arguably the best receiver in the country, next to Michael Thomas. So this division went from obscurity to 3 out of 4 teams, 75% of them going to the promised land, going to the Super Bowl, the highest stage of football. So, I think that's something to be said about the moves that they make. We talk about coaching moves and scheming and recruiting, essentially, and drafting and whatnot. That's, all of these things play into where you're going to be and where the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams and the San Francisco 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals, these teams have gone from the basement of the NFL to, from, as Mike says, the outhouse to the penthouse, looking at the fact that 3 out of 4 have been to the Super Bowl in recent history is insane, and I don't think it gets talked about enough, so I'm going to mention it, and I did a couple times. Russell Wilson, obviously worth drafting. I don't have to tell you that. Chris Carson is worth drafting, but he needs to stay healthy. That is a big thing. He needs to stay healthy. Rashad Penny, how the mighty have fallen. Him and Ronald Jones went from being guys that were, higher draft picks to being guys that are at the bottom of their respective depth charts. DJ Davis is here. Carlos Hyde is here now, spending a little bit of time in Jacksonville. Spent some time in San Fran. Now he's back in the division with Seattle. Travis Homer, that I covered when he was with the Miami Hurricanes in college, he's there. But really it runs through Chris Carson at the moment and what he can do. Somebody else is going to get carries, but it's anybody's game as Rashad Penny has been pushed away. Carlos Hyde is there, Homer, and DJ Davis. So it'll be interesting to see, but Chris Carson can catch the ball. He could do a lot of different things. So I think that he adds an element to you. Probably your number 2 running back on your team, unless you have a very deep league, then maybe he's your number 1. Tyler Lockett, I'm not sold on. I like DK Metcalf. He was number 5 on the depth chart last year, and I laughed at that. He is number 2 right now. I think he's going to be number 1. I would draft him above Tyler Lockett. That's my opinion. Greg Olsen is there. If he can stay healthy, we know he's dangerous. But like a Jimmy Graham, but sometimes when these guys change teams, a lot of things change. So don't write out Will Dissly or anybody else in the tight end room yet, just because Greg Olsen is there. And I haven't drafted any of them. I've stayed away from them. But I do think there's more in the tank for Greg Olsen. Shaquille Griffin still on the team. His brother Shaquem Griffin that Mike brought up. I hope that he either stays with Seattle or goes somewhere else. I've seen this man get an interception with one hand. I mean, he plays with his one arm bandaged because he doesn't have he doesn't have the opportunity to utilize fully both sides like other players do in the NFL, and he makes no excuses. What he's able to lift, what he's able to. I mean, I've watched this guy play on the field, and I can't tell that there's any difference. I can't tell that his body wasn't born with 2 fully shaped arms and hands. I mean, to me, it's just insane how when he's on the field, he plays like any quality punch-down, drag-out player is going to play. He doesn't make any excuses for himself, and I would tell you, you don't even know. I mean, I've seen him pull down an interception, and my brain had to remind myself that this is a guy doing it with physically less, but with no excuses. And I think anybody would be honored to have Shaquem Griffin on their team. So I'm a little bit surprised at the move that was made by Seattle, but hopefully they'll make the right move, or somebody else will. But I do think that there's value here. The most value on the team offensively, Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf and Chris Carson as well. As far as their record goes, Mike's got them at 9-7. They're playing Atlanta, New England. I'm going to say those are wins. I can call the Dallas game potentially a win, Miami a win, Minnesota, let's call that a win. I think that they could probably go 4-1. I'd feel safe about in those first 5, either losing to Minnesota or Dallas. So let's say 4-1, and then you got to play Arizona twice. That's going to be tough because they're not the Arizona that people think they have been in the past. I think that, they could potentially split with San Fran, split with LA, so let's call it 6. And then they play New York back-to-back, both of those games at home. So that's 7-8. They play Washington after that, 9. So, yeah, I feel comfortable saying 9-7. I'm a little bit leery of going 10-6 because I think these divisional games are really going to be difficult. And I think there's a lot that's going to happen amongst all of this. So I think, like Mike, saying 8-8, 8-8, 9-7, 10-6, or 11-5, that just shows you how close the division is. And I think that, Mike and I could be a game off somewhere that flips some things and it still keeps everybody close. I mean, this is a division where I can honestly tell you at the beginning of the season, I think San Fran's going to win, but I believe that any one of these 4 teams could win the division. So that's what the NFC West has become, and I think it's great because just a few years back, Mike and I were laughing about, who the heck can we say is good in the NFC West? And now it's who can we say is bad. And that is a testament to all of the moves that they have made when it comes to coaching, to players, to their scheming. Everything that they've done has been on the better side of things. So shout out to the division as a whole for being smart. Mike, any final words on the NFC West?
No, I think we pretty well wrapped it up. I do like a few guys that you might want to take chances are late in your draft. One of them you mentioned earlier that I drafted late in the draft, Van Jefferson. Him and Josh Reynolds keep, unseating each other for that slot receiver position. Van is best outside, but he's going to flourish in the slot as well. I think once he gets on the field, he's the next Cooper Kupp. I'm concerned about Cooper Kupp simply because he's going to face the number 1 corner. So that's my little bit of information. Van Jefferson, if you got a dead spot on your roster, you got somebody you're not sure of, go ahead and take Van Jefferson. He's the next Cooper Kupp. I like the NFC West as a whole. It's going to be exciting football. A lot of people don't get to see NFC because those games are later, or those games, they're not concerned because it's way out there in the left coast. Do yourself a favor. Catch some NFC West games. Those divisional games are going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, and I'm really excited for it. NFC West, Arizona, Los Angeles for the Rams, San Francisco, and Seattle. Mike, as always, inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub. I want to thank you for all your work. Go to HallOfFameFantasyFootball.com. Utilize any of their services, 40% off by using the code Orlando40. That's Orlando40, Orlando, all in caps. Thank you for the cheat sheets that we have here. Thank you for all the work you've done, Mike. I utilize these sheets with all of my teams at the Wildcat. I utilized it last night when you and I drafted in the Floridian League. I appreciate you for all the work you're doing, and more than anything else, I hope you all stay safe and well. And I look forward to seeing you soon. As you can see, I changed my name of my team in the Wake Up Call Florida League to Can I Go to Disney Now? Because I'm very impatient and I want to go. So I look forward to seeing you soon. I look forward to seeing Mickey soon. And in the meantime, stay safe and stay well. And you and I got plenty more work to do. And I'm just I'm excited for the season, very much so.
Sounds great, Dan. Thanks a lot. I'll talk with you next time.
All right, take care. That coming from Mike Sofka once again here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets life. Want to thank him so much for all of the work that he does. We're going to take one final step aside here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and we will get you set up for the rest of the week, including a special guest that's never been on the show that will be joining us tomorrow.
Cafe Cabal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafecubal.com. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpassnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Make sure you download their app, just as I have, on the Google Play or Apple App Store. You have the entire menu at your fingertips. And when you go there in the morning, obviously you have their complete breakfast menu with something that so few people have, especially in this area, which is a breakfast pizza. So many great things on the menu, including their quinoa bowls and all of their bowls, their salads, homemade dressings, their homemade breads, desserts, 30-some-odd concoctions of sandwiches that are absolutely incredible and named after the families that helped to settle what is today's Pulaski, and all of their pizzas. Everything that they offer you at the Millhouse Market is nothing you'll find anywhere else. They are truly unique. That's why I love it. Their prices, everything that they do, they're so good to us in our community. Make sure you're good to them and support them by supporting Central New York and heading out to 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York. They are absolutely worth the drive every time. And with contactless pay, you have the app, you have contactless pay, and you can drive right up, stay in your car, grab your food, and go. They have done everything they could to keep us safe at these times and to keep us properly socially distanced while giving us the food that we love. Thank you to the Millhouse Market. Worth the drive every time. I want to thank everything that happened today. We had a jam-packed, supersized mega show, and I loved it. We do that all the time, though. We always supersize. It's just how it is. Under promise, over deliver. Thank you to Julian Wiggum for the midweek blitz that officially started this week, and thank you to Mike Sofka for wrapping up our divisional analysis. Each week of the last 8 weeks, we've done a division, and we got it all done the day before the kickoff to the NFL with Houston in Kansas City in Kansas City. So, if you want to watch these videos, which you should, all of the analysis videos and all the videos I've done with Mike Sofka, as well as so much more, is on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. I'll be putting the links on Twitter at CallDT and on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT. I'll have all of those aired for you as well. So please make sure that you check out the videos and show us your support. Thank you to Mike for breaking down the Arizona Cardinals, Los Angeles Rams, San Francisco 49ers, and Seattle Seahawks today. And thank you for all of Mike's work on Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com. Shout out to my Floridian League for our draft last night. Shout out to Julian. Shout out to you. Inside of Mom and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factories, what's poppin'? I look forward to talking with you soon. Inside of these Cafe Kubal studios, thanks to all of our tremendous partners in the community, including Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, Wildcat Sports Pub, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, and their website where you get 20% off by using my personal code, DT20, that's DT20, at maandpaspopcorn.com, and you can order in the community or anywhere in the United States you can order. So if you're listening to the show somewhere else, you can still have it shipped to you, and you can still get 20% off. Avicoli's, Honda City of Liverpool, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Trapper's Pizza Pub, Borio's Restaurant, the Millhouse Market, and our beverages of choice that are right behind us here, Body Armor and Coca-Cola. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. God bless. No stress. Do your best. Find us on social media at WakeUpCallDT, on Facebook at CallDT, on Twitter, and at WakeUpCall_DT on Instagram. Have a tremendous day. And coming up tomorrow, for the first time ever, Syracuse tight end and NFL tight end alum Roland Williams will join the show live right after Papa Joe. I cannot wait. I'll talk to you soon.